Hello and welcome to the Keto Man's Club podcast.
We're glad you're here, where each week we talk about men's health and lifestyle.
We do so with the foundation of the ketogenic diet and lifestyle.
If you don't know what keto is, stick around and you'll find out.
The podcast will bring you real, honest fun.
Each week we strive to uncover the tips and tricks that you can use in your everyday life to maximize your overall health.
Find the clearest path to becoming the best version of yourself that you were meant to be.
Hello and welcome to this week's episode of the Keto Man's Club podcast. My name is Chris and I'm one of your hosts, and today I'm joined by Jim and Alberto as usual. And we have a guest today as regularly, and we're looking forward to getting to chat with Dan and get to hear a little bit of a different story because he's at a different place in his journey than some of the people that we've talked to before. So it's going to be really interesting to talk with him. Jim, how's it going?
It's good. 2020 has officially begun, and it was a nice New Year's and everything. As we'll talk about in a couple of minutes with our shout-outs of the week, group growth, podcast growth, everything has been solid as we've started the new year. So I don't want to go any more too far in depth just yet, but it's a good kickoff to 2020 for sure.
Absolutely. And Berto, what's new?
Oh, same old. New year, doing the same thing. Finally, just settling into my new macros and kind of seeing where that's going to land me.
Yeah, we need to talk about that here in a bit, just to kind of get the nitty gritty on what you're doing and all that type of stuff. And we've had a busy new year around here in the Keto Man's Club space with the new beginners group. It's starting to fill up. We've got almost 100 members in it right now, and there's some really good conversations going. So that's something that's been really cool. And so, life is super busy. We're doing some cool stuff this weekend down here in Texas, of course. Unfortunately, you guys, you Northerners, unfortunately, are going to have to miss out. But we're going to have a meetup on Saturday and do a little bit of hangout with David Blako and record another podcast with David as our guest host, which will be fun. And it's going to be...
Don't get any ideas, though.
No. Nobody can actually replace you. He's just going to sit in for a time.
We're going to have him muted the whole time.
Well, and he's already a 2-time guest, so he's like, So it's going to be a really great weekend. Lots and lots of stuff going on, and thanks to being powered by ketones, I actually have the energy for all of it, which is saying something because this weekend really is going to be a crazy weekend. Okay, so let's dive into our shout outs of the week. I'm going to go first because we didn't talk about it beforehand and I don't want somebody to steal it. I'm going to shout out to all of the new members that have joined us in the beginners group. Because it's really, I mentioned it before, but we really have seen a lot of really good conversation in the beginners group, and a big shout out to people like John Oakes and Gorman and Mike Gorman and all of, especially Brett. Brett's helped just dove straight in, and he's providing all sorts of tips and tricks, and we're just, it's just getting started. But I'm confident that we have a really great foundation in that new group that's going to allow it to grow and see really good things. So that's my shout out to all the people contributing to and helping build that strong foundation in the beginners group. Jim, how about you? Who's yours?
Well, you didn't quite steal it, actually, so I'm going to let you have your moment there. But I want to shout out to the new members of the Keto Man's Club, the original group. Each week on a Wednesday, we do a thing, hashtag Welcome Wednesday. Facebook has a thing right now where you can collect the names and tag all the people who've joined in the last week or whatever the case may be. And so we've had 60-some in just since the first of the year. And there's probably even been more than that. But when I did this week's Welcome Wednesday, it was over 60. We're closing in on 3,200 members of the group, which is just fantastic. And we've tweaked our security questions for guys who are interested in joining, and we've asked where they are learning about us and where they're from and different things. there have been a lot of people who are finding us organically through Facebook, just searching for keto. But there have been a lot of guys who are finding us through this podcast, which is just awesome. I've seen things of some groups that are focused on barbecue and meat, and we've been brought up there. So this ripple effect of what we've got going on just continues to amaze me, and it's awesome. So my shout out is just the new guys in the club, and welcome to it, and onward we go in 2020.
Absolutely. Well, let's use this as a chance to talk with Berto. He's coming off of his bulk and going into more of like a maintenance or trying to land somewhere type thing. Tell us a little bit about what that's looking like for you, kind of how you came to the macro numbers that you're coming to, that type of thing, Berto.
Well, first I get to do my call out.
Oh yeah, sorry. I'm totally. I've got like 4 side conversations going on right now. So
spot. I think we made.
Dan, what are you doing for every Wednesday night for the rest of the year? Get David on the phone. No, actually, my call out is he's not a member and he's also not keto, but he is my dad, and he turned 70 years old today. So he's had a bit of a rough year. He's on the up and up. Things are looking good for him. His health has turned around. And for his birthday, my mom bought him one of our shirts. So how cool is that?
Woohoo!
Yes, and shirt sales are probably actually closed by the time that this gets posted. We have basically reached the number that we need to be able to do it. So at this point, we're definitely doing it. And from the time that this airs, hopefully we'll have the shirt in people's hands within 2 to 3 weeks. So that's exciting stuff. It will be great to have our first launch out there and get that all done and move on to number 2, whatever that looks like. So that'll be great.
So,
okay,
now
my
back
question.
to the original question, since I feel validated now. Bulk successfully came to a close. Worked out. My goal was 180 pounds. I got up to 186. And, the whole thing, I was like, well, if I make it, weight fluctuates a lot. Like, even for me at maintenance level, my weight can fluctuate quite a bit. So for me, 185 pounds was like a guaranteed 180, given a little bit of fluctuation. My macros have dropped down a little bit. So I'm just over 3,000 calories, 250 something grams of fat. And then the protein is still stayed around the same, right around 100. I think it's set at like 150 something, but if I go over protein, I don't sweat it much. The important thing for me is the calories. So now I just brought it back down a little bit. I'm going to obviously stop trying to gain and just kind of see where things fall. This is all new territory for me. I've never in my life have been healthy enough to try to like manipulate my physique through food. So it's been quite the experience. I am starting to shed a little bit, which I didn't, I kind of figured I would when you force feed yourself for 5 months and then you stop force feeding yourself and eat a little more comfortably, then you're naturally going to lose a little bit of weight. So it's coming down slowly. I think last time I weighed myself, which was sometime last week, I was already down 2 or 3 pounds. Love handles seem to be the first things that are going, and a little bit of abs starting to pop out again. So it'll be interesting. I'm gonna, ride this out, maintenance for a little while. The goal for me right now is I do not want to dip below 180 pounds. It's just a number that's always been stuck in my head. There's really no rhyme or reason behind it, but regardless of what my physique ends up looking like, I want to be at 180 pounds or above. So it'll be very interesting to see how this goes moving forward.
Sure. Well, that's really cool. One of the things that we maybe I can ask you to do this for the beginners group, but a topic that I don't think a lot of people, whenever they're just starting keto, really understand. I know for sure that I didn't, was the basics of what macros are, and then how they kind of work together. Can you real quickly give a breakdown on what macros are and why you would manipulate them both calorically and percentage wise as far as how much protein, carbs, and so on?
We'll do this all in the most basic terms possible. Carbs are the bad ones. To keep it very simple, leafy green above ground vegetables are pretty much the carbs that you're going to consume. Your broccoli, your spinach, your cauliflower. Like I said, in the most simple terms, if it grew underground, then it's safe to say it's pretty much off limits for keto. Fat, we all know what fat is. It's what we all feared for most of our lives because it was the big bad wolf. And let's just call protein the muscle builder. You want to make sure you have adequate protein. And we were talking about this earlier. Like when I was bulking, I was at 185 grams of protein, which is a lot of protein by most people's standards, keto or not. Mm-hmm. But it was moderate protein in the sense that when you compared it to my 310 grams of fat, that my fat was very high.
Yeah.
My protein was moderate compared to that, even though if you took a look at the protein by itself, the protein itself was still at a pretty substantial amount.
I think that's one of the things I actually in my testosterone Facebook group, there was a little bit of conversation that was keto related, and I put in my little my 2 cents, and the protein, what is it called? The modified, it basically higher protein, moderate fat keto crew started voicing their things, and you can't gain muscle on, or you can't all this stuff, and I'm like, look at these people, they're doing it on a very high fat thing. Now that what they were thinking was that they're sacrificing on the protein, because I think that they still had it in their mind that they needed to be under some 2,000 calorie limit or something like that. And you're living proof that for some people, once you're metabolically healthy, 3,000 to 4,000 calories when you're physically active and have an active job that has you running around the state and paint shops all over the place, that you need 3,000 or 4,000 calories when you're trying to add lean mass. Now, if you're not trying to or if you're not super active, like I'm not super active these days. I'm doing 2 or 3 workouts a week at Kung Fu, and that's lucky if I get that much actually. So for me, I don't need that much, but it's all about the proportion of how much fat to the protein. So I'm still going to aim for 150, 160 grams of protein, because that's really kind of what I want as a final lean mass. That at the end of the day, what I'd like to be is at about 200 pounds, and I could, I don't want to necessarily be super super lean, because I think that's harder to maintain, and at least until you're really really metabolically healthy. But for me, doing 160 to 180 grams of protein really isn't that big of a deal to me, but I also get at least a 1-to-1 ratio of fat to protein in that regard, and if not more. So it's kind of one of those things that I think there's a lot of misunderstanding about the proportions, that high fat doesn't necessarily mean that you're low protein, or that your moderate protein is super low, and all of that. Now, there is they will go on all day. That particular camp will go on all day about the science behind all of that, and there is science behind it. There is, but there's also science behind the high fat side too, and there's also a lot of people exhibiting exactly how it works. Yes. Taking Robert Sykes as a very, very good example, who's very publicly showing his competition prep right now.
And he's a prime example where he's a private, and kind of the same philosophy I'm following is once you are in, he refers to it as keto adapted. Once you are fat adapted, I've been fat adapted for years, so it's almost a different playbook for us. I'm not that I'm anywhere near his level, but I mean the proof was in the pudding. Like I posted my results in some of these lower fat, higher protein groups where I'm real friendly with the guys, and a couple of the guys on there were like dumbfounded that I was able to consume 310 grams of fat a day.
Yeah.
Did it make me fat? I'm going to say no. Did it make me fluffy? A little bit, but when you're bulking, there's a give and take. If you're going to try to gain weight and gain muscle,
Yeah.
and you're gonna do it aggressively, you are going to put on a little bit of fluff. But the way I kind of wrapped it all up was the fact that I was able to go from 174 to 186 pounds with maybe a 3% fluctuation in body fat and still have something that resembles abs after eating 300 plus grams of fat for 5 months. Fat did not make me fat.
No. I would definitely say that you bulked, but you did not get fat. And that's, it is what it is. I think I hope that people will, that will help people, that they know that, whatever school of thought that they're coming from, that maybe, what one group or one person prescribes to isn't necessarily meant for them, and what works for them may not work for other people. And so, we're all in different places. We're all metabolically unique. And so we have to find out what works for us, but changing or adjusting those proportions of protein to fat and then keeping those carbs ultra low, that's keto, whatever that looks like, whatever those proportions are. And so, Jim, do you have any other input in that regard, or any observations regarding macros and whatnot?
The only thing I think I would add is just that it is an ongoing measurement, so to speak. I mean, as Alberto mentioned, with he was, changing his food plan and bulking up and things like that. So you have to be mindful of that. So as you are changing physically in the way that you're eating, because of the way that you're eating and everything, you have to be mindful of adjusting your macros accordingly as well, just to be aware of that. So don't think that once it's done, it's a Ronco set it and forget it kind of thing. You'll always be adjusting and tweaking as you lose weight, gain muscle, whatever the case may be.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a lot of people will say, if you're continuing to lose weight, about every 20 to 30 pounds, you need to reevaluate your macros, and then whenever you start getting even leaner than that, you probably want to reevaluate them every 10 to 15, so that you're making sure that you're calorically getting enough. That's important. Mm-hmm. That's, but also that you aren't overdoing it where you don't need to, and making sure that you're getting an appropriate amount of protein, because that is actually important. Now, keto is extremely muscle sparing. So I actually had a conversation with one of our members recently in private message earlier today, and he reached out and he's like, okay, I think I've lost too much weight. And after discussion with him, at 6'3", 140 pounds is probably a little thin. At least I can see where he would feel very, very thin. And so my suggestion was, based on our discussion, was he needs to actually eat more, and he needs to increase his protein, and he needs to work out more and try to build muscle. And so that's what he's going to do. And I'm referred to what Berto has been doing for the express reason that Berto has been doing just that. He got to the point where he was like, okay, I'm cool being this weight, but I'd rather be a little bit bigger, be a little bit bulkier, carry a little bit more mass. And there's nothing wrong with that. That's all fine. Trying to modify your physique in that way. Well, that brings us to our guest, because I'm going to just divert to Berto on this one, because he's going to be able to do a better job of giving a more complete introduction of our guest. So Berto, take it away.
Yeah, we kind of took a slightly different approach. A guy who's newer to keto. I've known Dan. Dan, I don't even know how long I've known you. I've known Dan so long, I don't know how long I've known Dan. But one of my best friends from the same town. We grew up in the same town. I've known the guy forever. The irony is here, and I'm sure we'll get into it, is, back when we first met, this man is an absolute animal in the gym. You want to talk about brute strength. the numbers this guy could push when he was serious into weightlifting are just dumbfounding. And I'm sure you remember what they were because I wanted to bring them up.
Yeah.
But and so I would go to him for weightlifting advice, and we'd get some workouts in and go back and forth. And then I went keto, and we still talked. And then now the kind of train has kind of turned around to where now he's been coming to me for keto advice, and we're all gonna be one big happy family again as soon as he pretty much just walks to his basement to his massive gym.
Yeah.
So, Dan, tell us a little bit about yourself. Let's get started. Obviously you've been a bit of a gym rat, it sounds like. So tell us about how you got into that, and then also tell us what your diet was like pre-keto, what things you tried and stuff like that.
So I got into weightlifting like basically right out of high school. I kind of always been like a little bit, not like really big, but like, carried a little extra weight on me. So I think out of high school, I was like about 280. And for reference, I'm like about 6'1", 6'2". And I wanted to get in shape. So started buying, like a little home gym setup. So initially it was all just, home gym stuff. Started doing workouts, got really into that. And then I actually ended up going to work for the company that I was purchasing my gym equipment from. And while I worked for them, like I got some like legit commercial gym equipment that we pulled out of commercial gyms because we sold them new equipment. And I got killer deals on, some commercial like cable crossovers, seated rows, benches, stuff like that. So I really set up like a pretty legit commercial gym. Initially at the basement at my parents' house. And then, obviously when I bought my house, I brought it to my house. So at the time I went from 280 down to 183. And that was not very healthy way to do it. I basically only ate one legit food meal a day. Everything else was bars and shakes. Worked well, but like I said, obviously, I'm not really getting whole food. My one food meal was a can of tuna, 14 wheat thins, and then a little bit of like mayo and relish mixed in with the tuna. Worked really well. I got super lean, and was able to maintain that for a little bit. And then basically the reason that didn't work for me was I was in college at that time. And when I got out of college and I started working, I do landscaping for a living and I have my entire life. Well, that kind of workouts I was doing on top of physical labor all day, I just couldn't operate with my calories as low as they were. My calories were like sub 2,000 calories a day. Got out of it, by the time I was 25 was the first time I hit 300 pounds. And I was like, oh shit, I need to do something about this. And just got back into the gym, and got my diet back under control. Dropped like 40 pounds in 6 weeks. Kind of maintained that. So I was back down to 260. And then, just kind of yo-yoed ever since then. Got really into weightlifting in my 30s, more like bodybuilding, kind of researching more along that line. And like the times where I get really lean was always limiting carbs. So if I did like, let's say two meals where I had like half cup of cooked brown rice per meal, and then my breakfast, I'd have like a little bit of fruits and veggies mixed into a smoothie. Obviously protein was really high. You're talking like 300 grams of protein a day. Obviously some of it from food, a lot of it from shakes. Very low fat though. So it worked. I don't honestly know what my weight got down to. I was just kind of gauging it all just based on like holes in my belt. And I decided I wanted more muscle mass and started kind of bulking. except total dirty bulk. I mean, I was eating like Girl Scout cookies and gelato and stuff like that, and I get killer pumps in the gym. And I was putting on muscle mass, very well, which is what I wanted to do. But then I just, I'd always have to cut carbs to get it like to start leaning out. And it was just, carbs low, protein high, fat low is just, for me, it sure it works to cut fat, but it doesn't work in terms of something for me to easily stick to. When you're eating like brown rice or sweet potatoes, everything's, obviously weighed out, and you're eating a lot of like grilled chicken breast, lean red meats. It just, for me, it's very hard to sustain that for any length of time. And, obviously just different things happen. And I started eating poorly again, going like completely off plan. And then I got really busy between both of my businesses a few years ago, and just basically resorted to fast food eating, pretty much for 3 meals a day. Which obviously that's when weight gain really happened again. Quickly got back over 300 pounds, and then obviously my health just kind of gradually got worse, which is eventually what led me to limiting carbs. Like my goal was never like, oh, I'm going to do keto. Like Berto said, I've been friends with him since like 2009.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And then, like he said, we grab a lift a couple times, and I don't even remember when that was. I just remember him coming over, and, he wanted to see what he could bench, because like I could spot for him. And like, obviously, his workouts, he's normally working out solo. And I was like, cool, I'll be good to have like a legit spotter. And because it'd been a while since I had benched heavier, I was doing more volume at the time. And, I was able to throw 3 plates on the bar and flat bench it, pretty easy. So strength, building muscle, like I always kind of excelled at that. It's always been the fat loss that's really been a struggle for me. And if I did do it, it was obviously a struggle to maintain that. And that's, like I said, once my health started to go down, I just started to like do a little bit of research on my own and stuff like that. And I've always talked with Berto, and obviously seen his success with keto. And so first I just kind of started like, oh, okay, I'm going to I need to cut out sugar. Like sugar is, obviously not good for you, especially in any large quantities. And that was like, I always like sweet. So like, while I thought I was like trying to eat healthier, like getting Panera or anything, I would always like see on their menu board like a cookie, and I'd be like, oh, let me get a cookie, or let me get a muffin, whatever it was. And I think kind of like when we grow up and like how we were taught to eat like healthy, like you kind of think like, oh, well, if I'm having like a half salad and I'm having a half flatbread sandwich and an unsweetened iced tea, like if I have a cookie, it's no big deal. And so I don't know if it was just like the condition of my health by that point or whatever, but like I was eating like that, or I'd eat like a full salad for lunch and, unsweet tea and a cookie. I always had to have the sugar. And, I just kept gaining weight and feeling worse. And then, like I said, cut out sugar, started to cut out grain. So I had very little carbs that I was really eating. Like my carbs were coming from fruit. And I ended up talking with Berto again, just called him up out of the blue on a weekend or something. And I said, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, dude, he's like, for somebody your size, he's like, if you just cut out some of that fruit, man, like you'd already be doing keto. Because previously, like for me at least, like when you hear keto and you hear like, oh, you got to keep your carbs under 25 grams of carbs, like it kind of seems almost like impossible, until you're doing it. And then you're like, oh, okay, this isn't that bad, you know?
Yeah, because I remember when you were like just kind of flirting with it, and he called me up and he's talking to me. He's like, "Well, look," he's like, "I eat an apple every day," and I was
Yeah,
like, "All right." I
yeah,
go, "Well, first of all, I go, are you on any medication?" And he's like, "No." I go, "Okay." So I go, weight's a problem. You're having issues with weight, and he said he was having trouble getting around at work. And I was like, "All right, well, let me put it to you this way. I go, if you're not on any medications, you really don't have any health issues. I go, you know anyone who has gotten extremely unhealthy by eating an apple a day?" And obviously, for the most part, the answer is no. If you're otherwise metabolically healthy, and that's where the
yeah.
conversation came up. Where like, but if you just cut out that apple, I mean, you're already here.
Right.
And so, I mean, I think you stuck with your apple for a little while. Then after a while, you're
I
just
did.
like, man, let's just
Yeah.
not.
Yeah, yeah. Because I like initially I was doing like 2 apples a day, and I wasn't eating like the full apples because I got a couple Rottweilers, so like they love apples. So like I'd give them, like a third of the apple each time. But yeah, I was doing that, and then I cut it down to one, and then eventually, yeah, I was just like, oh, okay, obviously Berto knows what he's talking about. I don't need the apple, so let me just kind of cut that out and see what it does.
Yeah, it begs the question with that type of thing of why are you eating the apple? Well,
Yeah,
they're healthy, right?
right.
Well, yes, technically they are if it's like off the tree, but if it's straight off the tree and it was actually, not completely modified, chances are it would actually be bitter and you wouldn't want to eat one every day. The ones that you get in the grocery store are so not natural, it's kind of crazy. So that's one of the reasons why I don't do fruit anymore, is just the fact that fruit isn't actually what it was supposed to be anymore. At least not what they sell in the typical grocery store. I remember the apples that grew on the trees that I think still are on my the property that my grandparents lived in my entire life, and they were a red apple, but it was as tart and as bitter as a Granny Smith. That's why I like Granny Smith apples as much as I did. But I could totally do without them, and so I do. But yeah, that's it. It's one of those questions that we all have to ask about anything, whatever it is, whether it be an apple or a Quest bar or whatever that item that is not getting you under a certain amount of carbs or whatever it is. It doesn't even have to be, carb based. Why am I eating it? Is it actually something that I need to eat? And
Right.
that gets into mindset and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so you own your own landscape company, and I know one of the conversations we had just as you were getting into this, and one of the first things you noticed is like you were really starting to struggle day to day, just getting along and doing your job. And
Yeah.
I think that's kind of what pulled the trigger for you. So talk about what you were struggling with, and then what the things you noticed that almost started immediately changing, as you slowly started dialing in and getting closer and closer to how you're eating now.
Well, so like as I was talking with Chris, prior to the podcast, being landscaping and being in Illinois, I'm shut down from December through about middle of March. So I got my little side business, but it's pretty sedentary. Like I sit at a workbench and I build things, so not very active. And I kept eating very poorly last winter. So like you fast forward through, okay, it's time to get the business up and rolling, get everything going, get the guys started. And yeah, I mean, I was just struggling. I do all of our chemical applications. So like 50-pound bags of fertilizer, I got a pallet of them in the back of my truck. I need to grab them from the back of my truck, empty them into my spreader. That was the issue for me. Doing the chemical stuff, I also spray yards for weeds. So I'll pull up to, I got a 400-foot hose reel off a 200-gallon tank in the bed of my truck. And, when you're pulling up to 400 feet of hose, full of liquid, that stuff gets a little heavy. And obviously being business, you're trying to walk through these yards as quickly as you can. And obviously still doing a good job. So, when you're trying to walk as fast as you can, pull the hose with you, being severely overweight and being unhealthy, I mean, like, I talk about being winded and like, I'd finish the yard, I'd reel up the hose and like get into the truck and I'd just be like, man, like I got to do something because like I'm struggling to do this and I'm the only one that does this aspect of our business. I don't have anybody else that I can say, hey, go do this because I'm struggling. So there was that. And then like I noticed like, kind of like my feet were like getting more, kind of swollen or whatever. My ankles, and I just kind of figured it was just, oh, well, I mean, obviously the weight is hard on my joints. But I think it was like a circulation issue, I mean, and that was where I really noticed it. And I guess what really like kind of was like oh shit, I need to do something because otherwise like my health is going to get really bad really fast. And, obviously I don't want to get like diabetic or anything like that, where like I could possibly risk losing, like a foot or part of my leg or whatever the case may be. And that was kind of what really, I guess, really pushed me into getting to like, just Googling stuff online. And then I ended up watching the Vinnie Tortorich fat documentary. And then I watched, there was some other documentary like that was free on Amazon Prime, like called What's with Wheat or whatever. So between all of that and, I've, my mom's really into health. She had cancer 5 years ago. And ever since then, it's just been really like holistic and, trying to eat everything. She reads like a lot of books. Like she's read Pearl Muter's Grain Brain, some other books like that, and really like about getting rid of inflammation and all that in the body. And so like I've obviously known, through her especially about, don't eat sugar, don't eat grain. Like she stays away from all that. So yeah, all of that, kind of put together was like the perfect thing to get it to where all I was having was like those apples, which then, when that was obviously my health was improving because my carbs had just got pulled and I had no more sugars, no more grains, well, except for obviously sugar and apples. But, then obviously when I started getting more to the keto side is when I really started seeing, more drastic, more rapid changes in my health and, just like how my clothes were fitting, how I could do my job, stuff like that. I mean, it just overall, just across the board, I mean, was like, take me from, I don't know when that was, maybe like August, take me from August when I kind of started like flirting with, the low carb stuff until like November when I think I probably went like legit full blown keto like October sometime, beginning of October. And I mean, just like my ability to do my job by the beginning of November, I mean, I hadn't been able to produce that level of output in a day for years, just because my health was getting worse with the weight gain.
I want to ask you a question, Dan. Talking
Yes.
about your size and everything. There's people out there. Let me backtrack. Tonight at the gym, I saw this side by side comparison kind of thing. They're doing these in body scans at the gym and whatnot, and showing how people can weigh the same and be completely different in a body structure. So when you said that at one point, you were right around that 300 mark or whatnot, I'm just going to ask it. Were you the guy that had the gut that hung down to his knees kind of thing? Or were you this guy that just was a big guy that was pretty solid for the work that he did and all that other stuff? Did you ever get like a body mass index or anything? I'm just kind of curious because, some people will hear 300 like, oh my gosh, that's huge. And it's a big number, but yet some people can be built really well and be in that 250, 260 range because they're just solid muscle. So I'm just kind of curious what your body composition was kind of like at that point.
So, yeah, I never really had like a belly that really hung down, or hung down. I've always obviously held weight at my midsection, especially like love handles, stomach. Obviously distributed all over my body, but those were obviously the largest deposits. Um, but yeah, so a lot of people, for example, like back in, I think it was like about 2012, I was like probably about 360 then. And, when people heard that, like as I was losing weight and, going down and whatever, they'd be like, wait, what? You weighed 360? And I was like, yeah, and people that I hung out with on a weekly basis. So they had no idea, kind of like what you're saying, that like I actually weighed that much. Because when they think of 360 pounds or, 380 pounds, whatever, you think of somebody with like a massive belly that sticks out, or, somebody that like may look like they're like pregnant or, whatever. And my size, so like I have very broad shoulders, and like even like being fairly lean, like I'm one of those people, like kind of what you said. So like if I'm lifting weights and I get down to like 250, I look like I'm jacked at 250, 240, and I look fairly lean. 270, not you could still like under my shirt see like obviously I got love handles, stuff like that. But nothing major, I mean, I could be 280 and look like how a lot of people might look when they're like, let's say 220 or 215. So yeah, like you said, it does vary greatly person to person, just in your frame and how you're built. I mean, I'm even being lean, I got close to like a 50-inch chest. And being lean, I have like a stupid small waist if I'm actually lean. Like that's why my waist can get down to a 32-inch waist. But just because of how big I am up top at my shoulders, if I'm rocking a 42-inch waist, my up top is still so much larger. You can't really tell, the amount of fat that I'm carrying if, even at a 42-inch waist.
Right. Right.
So, so what have been your results so far? Recap for us again how long you've officially been ketogenic, and then like what the results have been, even if they're just felt results in that time.
I would say like officially ketogenic, where I wasn't having like any fruit, or mainly, cut out the apples, and I wasn't like eating, chicken nuggets in a pinch or something like that. Probably since the beginning of October, first or second week in October. And as far as results, let's see, I think I've dropped about 6 inches, on my waist. And then shirt size, like I'll still wear the same size shirts. It's just like before I would really have to like put them on and, stretch them out so that they fit and everything, and they weren't like skin tight. Whereas now I can just put them on straight out of the dryer and they're baggy on me. Like for example, like I was wearing a shirt, last night, when I was getting ready for bed, that I remember like over the summer, like back in August, let's say, where like I go to put this shirt on and like it fit me like, Winnie the Pooh, where like the thing didn't even cover my belly,
Okay.
It was like,
there's a Saturday Night Live skit that involves Winnie the Pooh with no pants, and I just had a bad visual there. I apologize.
So yeah, it's like,
my
Winnie
mind
the
just
Pooh in a
went to a
crop
dark
top.
place, and I got to pull it back out.
But yeah, I went from like, that t-shirt was like skin tight, hard to even like put it on, and like I literally couldn't even like pull it past my belly button, to like now, I can wash it, dry it, throw it on out of the shower, and like, I mean, I don't know, I didn't measure, but I think it's like 3-4 inches below my waistband, now. So like it made my shirt like, I don't know, 6 inches longer or whatever, let's say.
And one thing, you don't weigh yourself at all, or very
no.
rarely ever. Like, so you don't even know.
Yeah, no, I do not know. People have asked me that, and I'm like, well, the scale that I have always had like stops at 300. So, I couldn't tell you where I was. I would honestly venture to say like I probably started about 380, probably 380, 390. Definitely the biggest I'd ever been. I mean, it was getting at that point where, like sitting down and putting your socks on was, starting to become like, okay, all this fat on my midsection is in my way to bend over and put my socks on.
Yeah, I think, well, I know I've been there, where it was leaning over and you're going, okay, how long can I hold my breath so that I can actually get this done? Or
Yeah.
where can I throw my foot up on this or that or the other thing so that I can tie my shoes? That was always it. I could always reach my feet, but how long can I stay there? I've always been flexible, but I haven't always been able to breathe and do it at the same time. So that's definitely a benefit of losing most of the gut and having all of that. So let's talk about where you're going, kind of what your observations have been so far well, let me rephrase and say where from where you're at right now, looking into the future based on the things that you've experienced, what are you planning to do? Are you planning any tweaks or changes? Are you going to modify any of your eating habits to try to reach any specific goals? What is that looking like for you now?
And we're going to double that question up. And this kind of goes along with that. I really want you to, only because I know the answer to this, how you're eating now and what you're using now, like compared to what it was just a few months ago.
As far as like how my diet has changed, or
yeah, and how you've changed your diet, because I mean, you already said it. You were eating out 3 meals a day.
Yes.
And when was the last time you probably went out to eat that you can remember? This I don't know the answer to. I'm just asking.
Okay. Last time I got food. Well, so last time I went out to eat was company Christmas dinner. So first week of December. And that was, Mexican restaurant. It's where all our employees pick to go. So I figured, no big deal. Go there. I see Berto, go out to eat all the time, and he gets, what is it, like 2 orders of double fajitas or whatever you get. And I was like, I mean, I can't go as hard as Berto eating that amount of food, but like, I'll get, like a double order of fajitas, no rice, no beans, no tortillas, obviously. And then, like, oddly enough, like I'd never been to this place before. It's like the only Mexican restaurant that like doesn't have fajitas on the menu. So I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So they had like cut up ribeye with poblano peppers and cheese. So I got that, and told them no rice, no beans, don't bother to bring me out tortillas because that's all included. And I had that, and I mean, it was good. It's obviously following keto because like there's not a lot of carbs in poblanos. Prior to that, the last time I got like fast food or ate out at all was back in November. While we were working, I was pretty hungry one afternoon, and I stopped and got local hamburger joint. I do like what a lot of guys do when they go to Five Guys or whatever. So I got a double cheeseburger with bacon, extra bacon, cheese, and no bun. So they just give it to you in a a little tray and a knife and a fork and everything, and just eat that. And now, as far as Chris's question, like where I plan on going or tweaks to make or whatever, I've kind of been tweaking everything the entire time. And like as Berto can attest to, like I'll call him randomly or text him randomly, and I'll be like, say something that I've realized just in myself as I go along the way with this. And Berto's always, in his posting, you always see him talk about, keep it simple, like beef and eggs never do you wrong. And initially I was trying different things, like different foods. So like I was getting like, smoked sausage that didn't have any carbs, like grass-fed beef franks, stuff like that. It was all carb free, but obviously it was more processed stuff. And I was seeing the results with it, but like then like a week or two later, I, listened to Berto essentially, and I started making, stuff with ground beef or like making a steak or cooking a roast. So I was mainly beef and eggs that week with some bacon. And I noticed that for myself, at least, like my body liked that better. Like I just felt better having that type of meal versus like all the more processed, like type of sausages and stuff. Um, so I just plan to continue to kind of stick pretty heavy with the beef, eggs, bacon, obviously. I bought a bunch of ribs because they were on sale. So I have some ribs here and there. I don't like a pork heavy diet, so just kind of mix in the pork. And then this week just started working out a little bit. Obviously starting slow, getting back into the swing of things. And then my ultimate goal is to obviously continue to ramp it up and build some of the muscle back that I lost from 2 years of not lifting. And then, obviously use that to help me continue to burn fat, even faster. And then just continue to tweak it from there. I don't really track my macros. I keep track of my carbs, but like I don't really eat a lot of carbs. So like for the most part on a daily basis, like I'll eat 2 meals. Sometimes I'll have a snack midday. And if I have a snack midday, it's going to be like one of those little single serve, like 1.5 ounce tubes of almonds, Blue Diamond almonds. So depending on which one I have, I mean, you're looking at like 3 grams net carbs or 4 grams net carbs. Sometimes if I'm really like hungry, I'll have 2 of those, but generally I only have 1. And other than that, I mean, I'm mainly eating meat and some cheese with it. Occasionally I have a little bit of spinach or poblano peppers. So, for me at least, it's pretty easy to keep my carbs under 25. And I just make sure that I do that. And then I don't really track my other intake other than, when I initially started, I wasn't eating enough food. And that's kind of where I asked Berto, his advice, and he told me what keto calculator to check out. And, I punched in, everything, and it was telling me I should be eating, I think it was, at the time, because of my activity level, it was telling me like, I think about 3,200 calories a day for accelerated fat loss. So I was just trying to make sure to make like a conscious effort to make sure I was eating enough food, because I wanted to make sure I didn't like cut it too much initially to where like, obviously you got to cut it, like pull it as you're cutting down. I don't want to get to the point where like I'm running out of calories to pull from, or, it's affecting my health or my energy level because like my calories have gotten so low. But yeah, ultimately, like, my goal is kind of do, essentially what Berto's done as far as, build muscle mass, lean out, and just kind of get to a level with that where I'm happy with it, and it's something fairly easy to maintain. And I think also, like, for me, like a lot like Berto, like I'm kind of all or nothing with everything that I do. So with his help and the advice and everything and getting into keto, like if I can get into something and like do it for like 3 weeks, 4 weeks consistently, it just kind of becomes like a routine. So now like I don't really have to put like a lot of thought into it, or like, oh, I really want to eat this, but I can't. It's just kind of like you just get in that mode of, oh, okay, like what food do I have cooked? Do I need to get some ground beef out of the freezer to thaw it? Do I need to thaw some steaks? Do I need to thaw, whatever, just to plan it out, just because it's kind of like, this is what I eat now, and I think actually one of the biggest things that kind of helped me, I guess, starting was Berto told me, his mentality of like, because like I said, like for me previously, like when he told me about keto, he's been doing it, I've known him for as long as he's been doing it. To me, hearing it then was like, that's crazy. I can't do keto. Like, how am I going to cut my carbs that low? There's no way. And then when like I was, cutting carbs down and speaking with him, he said, one way to look at it is don't look at I can't have this or I can't have that, but look at all the stuff you can have. Like I can have ground beef, I can have steak, I can have bacon, I can have cheese, I can have, heavy whipping cream in my coffee. So I think that helped a lot, like in terms of that mindset going into it. Like, in terms of like, I didn't have the mindset of, oh my God, I'm going to be so restricted and I'm going to be missing out on all this stuff that I used to eat that was really bad for me. But more the mindset of like, okay, I can eat, scrambled eggs and bacon, and I can eat, I can make, hamburgers or, cook a steak or whatever along those lines. I tend to really not eat any chicken. Honestly, I haven't had any chicken since I've been keto. I used to make it more, previously. I think it's just because I'd rather have steak than I'd rather have chicken, So
I think that's most of the general population.
yeah, I've thought about doing like some drumsticks, but yeah, like I with that like kind of mindset about food is kind of like, I mean, honestly, like when I have cravings, I'm like, oh man, like I really want to make that, I'll make like this, basically it's like a bacon cheeseburger in a pan type thing. So I'll be like, if I haven't had that for a week or two, I'll be like, man, I really want to make that bacon cheeseburger in a pan bake thing. And then that's kind of, what I'm craving. Or, with like ribs, if I haven't had ribs for a couple weeks, be like, oh, I'm going to get a rack of ribs out and cook them. This last time I made a mistake of cooking too many ribs. So I'm kind of like sick of ribs at the moment.
It happens.
But,
it happens.
Yeah. I mean, because you try and meal prep, and make it so that all I got to do for my meals is heat it up. But yeah, I ended up with like 2.5 racks of ribs, some bratwurst, and then it was just too much pork at once, for every meal, like 3 meals in a row or 4 meals of a row of nothing but pork. I was just like, okay, I'm gonna grab some ground beef out of the freezer and bake up, make some ground beef and bake it with some poblanos to give it a little flavor, a little kick, and top it with some cheese. And it's pretty easy to like make some real simple ground beef dishes, that where the majority of what you're eating is ground beef and maybe like some diced up bacon or something. And you could just change, things here and there, like in terms of like put some spinach on it or mix it with poblanos and totally change like the flavor of it. And that way, like I don't get sick of the ground beef,
Yeah, I thought about doing a video, and I should have done it for the beginners group, but in between getting off of work and starting recording with you guys, I got a 3-pound tube of ground beef and threw it in a pan, added some spices, browned it up real good, put it in a container, put it in the fridge, meal prep done for the week.
Right. Yep.
Or at least a couple days. If it was Berto, it'd probably be like a day and a half.
A day.
a day and a meal.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have to be complicated. So I love that you're pointing that out. So let's piggyback off of that same idea. Being that you're still only a few months in, have you run across anything that would specifically be like, I wish I'd known this to start, or things that you think someone just getting started with keto really needs to know so that they can really catapult themselves forward and make sure that they're getting the most out of it?
So I think like what really helped me, I guess, prior to even getting started was 2 things. I watched that, Vinnie Tortorich Fat, the documentary, video. And then just being good friends with Berto. So being that I can just call Berto and be like, hey, you do this, like, explain this to me, like, what do you do? Because I'd start to see him post on his personal Facebook page, some of his meals and stuff. And I think prior to that, I didn't really have a grasp of, I guess, what keto eating was. Like, you could tell me like, oh, you don't eat carbs. Oh, okay, cool. I mean, that doesn't really register to me as like as much as seeing Berto post like 2 pounds of meat talking about this is my lunch. So I would be like, I'd call him. I'd be like, did you seriously just eat all that for one meal? And he'd be like, yeah, this is what I eat. I'm eating. And he started telling me his macros. And I'm like, and you're staying lean, eating almost 4,000 calories a day. And he's like, yep. And I'm like, okay. So I think like that really helped for me because like I said, I think prior to that, even knowing Berto and knowing his successes, to me, just that the fact that like everything that I think most people eat, I know myself, I had a very carb heavy diet, so like you get a burger, you got a bun, right? You get hot dogs, you got a bun. Grilled cheese, I used to love to make grilled cheeses. Sweets were always my thing. I mean, you go to Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts and you get one of their, if you go to Starbucks and get a Frappuccino, like the amount of sugar that's in one of those. So, sugary things have always been my thing. So like if, you hear before that, like, well, you can only have 25 grams of carbs. And like, you look it up and it's like, well, one medium gala apple is 22 grams of carbs. But I mean, I think it's like 5 grams of that is fiber. So it's like 17 net. So it's like, okay, so basically you have 2 apples and you're not keto. So to me, like just the way my diet was previously, and especially liking sweet stuff, liking pizza, it just seemed like a unattainable, I guess, way of eating to me. So, just knowing from Berto like what he was eating, and then him telling me that whole like don't have the mindset of you're being restricted and you can't have this stuff, like just like have the mindset of look at all this delicious stuff that I can eat. And I think that was a big thing for me to make it like to where it was like, oh, okay, like I said, I could have, like I never really ate almonds before. And now like I love like Blue Diamond almonds. They got smokehouse flavor and habanero barbecue. And I forget which one is which on carbs. One of them's like 3 grams net in the little 1.5 ounce tube, and the other one's like 4 grams net. So like, and it tastes really good. So yeah, I guess just kind of realizing that like it may sound crazy to cut your carbs that low, but like in all actuality, if you sit down and you look at it and like, food should be to fuel your body and like it shouldn't be a reward or a punishment or anything like that. I think that's one of the biggest things in terms of being successful with it is like, having more that mindset that this is what I need to eat for myself, to better myself and to better my health. And just to get to where I want to go, I mean, like, for me, your health declining, obviously coming into your head, like, hey, the way I'm going, I'm probably not going to make it that long. I'm probably going to die fairly young. Like, that's a good motivator. And so, I think just having the right mindset about food, I think was really one of the biggest things that helped me get into it. And then even to this day, right now, it still helps me because like, obviously we just had the holidays, family get-togethers and everything, friends, some of our suppliers give us, trays of like chocolate covered, almonds or, cookies or, different like jams and like mustards and kind of like all that gourmet stuff that has a lot of sugar in it. And honestly, like, both Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, I ate keto the entire time. And to me, it wasn't like, oh my God, like I'm totally missing out on this, or I'm not living my life or anything like that. To me, it was just like, oh, okay, this is what I eat now. Like, there's ham here that didn't have, it wasn't like, the hams that you get that have like, all the, whatever, the sugar in them and stuff. It was, just a plain ham that was, slow cooked. And, so there was like ham, asparagus, and then avocado. So like to me, I mean, I love all that stuff. So I guess having that mindset and not thinking that I was like punishing myself or I was like totally missing out on the holidays because I wasn't having all these like Christmas cookies and everything. Like even like I said, even to this day, that's a huge benefit for me, having that mindset just to keep me on the right track, you know?
Well, it sounds
fantastic.
Yeah,
I was gonna say,
agreed.
wow, like drop the mic.
Yeah, I think that you're very definitely doing and having the type of experience that we want every person who is getting into keto. That's honestly what my first holiday season was like too, where it was just kind of, I don't need this stuff. I've got some keto sweets that that we made. My wife was doing it with me at the time, and she bakes, and so she made a few things and whatnot that was keto friendly, but still kind of sweet. But while it was nice, it wasn't necessary, and so you're winning, and hopefully you'll be able to continue to win in such a way that it's an example to others who are just getting started as well, and be able to really set themselves up to win in the long run, whatever that looks like.
Yeah. Like I said, if people, I guess kind of had access to which they do in the group, you got access to Berto, and like I see Berto make comments all the time, and like he can attest to, like, I'll see him make a comment to somebody, and I'll like screenshot it, or sometimes I'll comment at him or whatever, but like then I'll just screenshot it and text it to him, and I'm like, that's exactly like just his mindset is like, kind of has helped me try to have that same mindset about it. Like I remember one comment he made. I couldn't remember what the comment thread was about, or the post about, or whatever. And Berto made the comment. He just said, it's you against your vices, for your health, and which one are you gonna let win? And to me, I kind of love that kind of like mindset or like motivation. Like it's almost kind of like being called out, and everyone obviously, operates differently or whatever. But to me, it's like, yeah, that's true. Like it's just food. I don't need to have, pizza, or I don't need to have grilled cheese, because like I know there's like keto breads and all that out there, keto pizza crust, although that pork rind pizza crust that Berto made the other day, that stuff looks delicious. But
That's
yeah,
worth the
I
effort.
don't. Yeah, right. So I think if the group really helps, I think if people are open to listening to, like, those of you guys that have been doing this for a while, stuff that you've learned, because that's what I've kind of told Berto, like along the way. And I'll be like, oh, I did this week, like I said, like when I transitioned from having too much of like the processed meats to, just like regular grass-fed ground beef and, some steaks that were on sale at the grocery store, the differences that I made. And then, or that I noticed like in myself. And, I think if guys really, pay attention and use the help that's available to them from the group and like obviously from these podcasts as well, that, if you have an open mind and you're willing to listen to what other guys do and what's worked, You can try different things and really try and get that same mindset or that same, just get into where it's kind of more of a routine versus like having to like force yourself or feel like you're missing out on food or anything like that, because I know for me, like food's always been a slippery slope, like I could be, really dedicated weightlifting and everything, but you start eating out or like I'd be going to like Taco Bell, and it always was like a slippery slope, kind of because like you do it at first and you're like, oh, yeah, I had that meal, like a cheat meal basically, or a cheat day, and nothing happened. And so you kind of said then like, your body starts to crave more of that food that you ate. And then it's just, for me, it's a very slippery slope, and it snowballs into where like that cheat meal turned into a cheat day. And then that turned into, well, I'm busy today, I'm just going to swing by and, get a pizza or, stuff like that. So I think, taking the advice from you guys that have been doing this for a while and putting on this podcast and, everybody that you guys talk to definitely helps out in terms of like hearing what's worked for different guys and kind of stuff that they've picked up on, themselves.
Fantastic. One last question, because I promised we'd do it before we button up. You said you haven't worked out in a while. You're getting back to the gym. Just go over some of your lifting numbers from I don't want to say back when you're in your prime, because you're just about fat adapted by now. And let me tell you, things are going to start getting real fun if you start attacking the gym the way you used to.
Yeah.
I'm actually excited as to what you're going to be able to accomplish. But last time you were on your last lifting stint, what were some of your most impressive numbers, your biggest favorite lifts and stuff like that?
I always like benching. I was benching, I could either do volume or I could do weight. So like if I did volume, I could do like 10 sets of 10 at 225 with a minute rest between them. Killer volume, killer pump. I love that shit. The amount of pain involved in that. Weight wise, I think I got up to, I was benching 365 for 2 maybe, or 365 for 3. I never legit did a max because like my dad comes over and spots for me, and my dad is now my dad's 74. So I don't clip the weights on. I've always just told him, hey, if I get stuck and we can't lift it, like that's cool. I can hold it on my chest, and just slide the weights off the bar for me. But yeah, so I got up to about 365 for 2 or 3. That was always good. One arm dumbbell rows, back exercise. That was I always used to love that. Most I ever one arm dumbbell rowed was like 170. That was fun. Other back exercises, chest exercises, those were always kind of my favorites. Curls, if I got a little bit of momentum with like hammer curls and stuff, I could hammer curl like 85, 85-pound dumbbell in each hand. And then legs, for me, legs was always like, they got my biggest at volume. So I just did a lot of volume, I could get up to like 850 on the leg press for volume. Because when I went to max out, not my last stint, but it's kind of a long, I don't know how many years that was. That was like 5 years, 6 years maybe of lifting there. But when I previously went for numbers on the leg press, I got up to 1,500 pounds for, a single, and that was always, like a goal for me. Like I'm kind of aggravated on the bench press. I didn't hit my goal. My goal was 4 plates per side, flat bench, which is 405. So that's still there in the back of my head, that I didn't hit 405. And that's still a goal of mine. But yeah, just basically like, once I can get into it and really get into a routine with it, I really start to like I guess just kind of like feed off of the momentum, like, and I think that holds true with like keto as well. Once you really start to dial things in, and you're like, oh shit, like I lost some more weight, and oh, my pants are fitting looser, and oh, I dropped a pant size, and well, now not only did I drop a pant size, but crap, now I need a belt for these pants, and it's just kind of one of those, like, you kind of feed off the momentum, like you see the results of what you're doing, and it's like, oh, okay, let me continue this, because you like what you see. And so weightlifting was always like that for me. And the downside with me is like, being all or nothing is like, if I can get into something, like I can really get into it and like attack it, give it everything I've got. And if for whatever reason, I get out of something, like, things come up in life, and they get you off your game or whatever, or, whatever the case is, like, that's always been a downside with me is like, if I get out of something, like I really get out of something, so, there's never really been a middle ground. So, that's why, like, I kind of get into everything slowly, kind of get into a rhythm. And then like, once you get that rhythm going and that routine, just kind of roll with it, and just see what you can do. Cause one thing I have noticed, and this is, I think maybe 2 weeks ago, you and I were talking, maybe 3, I don't know, I lose track of time, but my energy levels have really gone up, to where I'm like, wow, like I got all this energy and like I don't get tired, and like now I'm operating just like I was used to on a lot less sleep, like 5.5, 6 hours of sleep, versus before when I was unhealthy. I mean, I could sleep for 8 or 9 hours a night and I would still be exhausted,
I think that might be a sign of fat adaptation there, buddy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I started, just like start out light, so like I said, so like I'll start like, incline walking on a treadmill, nothing crazy. I don't even remember the speed I got up to, because the speed, wasn't my goal. It was just to get up to a nice, nice walk, nice brisk walk, and then, raise the incline up. I didn't really pay attention to what I raised it up to either, honestly. Maybe I didn't, nothing crazy. Maybe it went up like 4% or something like that. But I just kind of do that, do that for 15, 20 minutes. And then you're like, oh, okay, yeah, man. You're like, I'm feeling good from that. And then, you just get into that. And, I was impressed, like, cause, from how I felt previously, like you would think, 20 minutes walking on the treadmill is nothing. But like, previously, yeah, I probably would have been like a little winded, a little tired,
Yeah. Well, I think any other questions, Jim or Berto?
Well, I was going to ask for dirty secrets about Berto, but considering our time and everything, I figured it'd be safe for making that for the after we hit stop on the record kind of thing.
Yeah, that works.
Yeah. We'll make that the keto after dark portion of
the after show for the after show.
Yeah.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your story so far. It's exciting to hear the success that you're already seeing, and is going to be exciting to continue to watch you win as you continue to push forward and pursue the best health that you can possibly reach. A reminder to our listeners, we covet your support, and if you found this story inspiring or encouraging, would you share it? Either just send out the link, or pass along in a message to someone who you think might benefit from it. We definitely want to make an impact in any way that we possibly can on the world, and stories like this one help do that. And so it has less to do with me and Jim and Berto, although we like being a part of it. But it has a lot to do with the stories that we're getting to share with from our guests. So absolutely wonderful to get to have Dan share his story with us for that purpose. And again, thank you for that. You can connect with with the podcast on our website by going to theketomansclub.com and connect with our Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. And that's direct ways that you can get in touch with us. You can also email us at ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com, or you can even call and leave a voicemail. That number is 512-518-6161. We really look forward to getting to do more and more of this, and we want to hear your feedback. You can leave that feedback either on the voicemail or via email, but you can also leave that feedback on the Apple Podcast side of things, and that way other potential listeners can see your reviews and your comments. And we check those comments, and we really do appreciate the honest feedback that we've gotten, whether it be positive or negative. We appreciate that feedback, whatever that looks like, and it helps us become better. Well, let's go around the horn real quickly. Dan, online, how can people connect with you?
Facebook. Yeah, I'm in the keto group, and try and comment in there as much as possible. And I've had a few people from there. When I post up recipes or whatever, there's something I'll make, they'll message me, about how I did this or that or whatever, food related. So always willing to help anybody that's looking for, different ways to cook something, just to mix it up so they don't get sick of eating the same food over and over again,
Absolutely. Berto?
The group as always, and on Instagram at the Keto Cholo.
Jim, how about you?
Ditto on the group, and Instagram is Jim Inman JR.
And you can connect with me online on Instagram through @DuckmanKeto, or as with everybody else on the group. I'm pretty much always accessible. And so that's how you can connect with us. All of the links to the social, to the podcast. Please make sure that you subscribe to the podcast if you enjoyed what you heard today. But all of the links for that are on our website, theketomansclub.com. And with that, any parting shots, Jim? Last words?
The only thing I would just remind everybody, if you are listening to this podcast or any of our other episodes and you're just starting out on your keto journey, look up TKMC Beginners on Facebook. We've talked about it over the last couple of episodes, but that is our new group for men who are just starting out on the keto journey. So again, just look up TKMC Beginners and answer a couple quick questions. We'll get you in there and just keep giving you all kinds of great info like we've done tonight and in the groups, and away we go.
Absolutely. Berto, any parting shots?
Well, I was just going to say that this was officially the interview for Dan to help out in the beginner group, and lucky for you, I think you passed.
Yep, I think so. Yeah, we're going to make sure that he's in there and he gets involved with that. I have a feeling that won't be a problem at all. Well, it's been a pleasure once again to get to chat with you guys, and that's it for this week. Until next week, make sure to eat meat, lift heavy, sleep, and repeat. Thank you for joining us for the Keto Man's Club podcast. Your support means the world to us. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss an episode. Would you help us spread the word about the Keto Man's Club by sharing with your friends and family? We're available on all podcast platforms, so just search for Keto Man's Club and you'll find us. If you would like to connect with us, you can do so a number of ways. Our web address leads to our Facebook group, theketomansclub.com. That's TheKetoMansClub.com. You can also follow us on Instagram at Keto Man's Club Podcast. Lastly, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to reach out via email to ketomansclubpodcast@gmail.com. Thank you again for joining us today, and we look forward to hanging out with you again next week.